Popular Woodworking Magazine senior editor Robert W. Lang walks you through the building of our June 2008 I Can Do That project, the CD-DVD rack. He begins the process cutting the upright pieces from the rails.
Okay, I've got the end of my piece marked 4.5 inches from the end. Then I'm going to flip the saw over to cut a 45-degree angle. Now, because I'm cutting a short piece, I want to keep my hands well away from the blade. I line the blade up to my pencil mark, and then I mark the end on the fence. And this will give me a reference for cutting the rest of the pieces. So to make the cut, bring it down, and I wait for the saw to come to a complete stop before I move it. That keeps this little piece from flying away, and it gives me a nice clean cut on the end. Then to cut the other side, I just want to flip it over. I want to make sure the angle is pointing in the same direction, and I make the second cut. For the feet, I want a short piece with a 22.5-degree bevel on each end. Now this is kind of tricky to cut something this small. I could cut it standing up with the saw angled, but I'm afraid of the little short piece falling into the blade and flying across the room. So what I'm going to do is tilt the saw over, click it into the stop at 22.5 degrees, and then I'm just going to cut off the end. Then I'm going to slide it over to where I've marked the length on the saw fence again. Again, I wait till the blade's completely stopped. I slide the piece over to my pencil mark again and cut the second one. And that keeps my hands a safe distance away from the blade. And the last piece to cut also gets the 22.5-degree bevel on each end. When we put the project together, this is going to go on top of the feet. To assemble the miter joint, I'm going to place the short pieces butted up against the end of the long one. And then I'm going to take packing tape and just put that across the joint with the two ends lined up. With the pieces taped together, I just flip them over, and then I can apply glue onto the surfaces that are going to be joined together. Now, one of the problems with miter joints is they're difficult to glue, and the reason for that is the end grain surface, which is most of the surface on this, tends to soak up the glue. So I'm just going to spread some glue around, and then I'm going to wait about 5 minutes for it to soak in. After letting the glue dry for a few minutes, we're ready to do the final glue up. I'll put a little more glue in each of the joints. And because I've got the tape on the backside acting as a hinge, it'll just fold right up. A little more tape across the top, and that's going to hold the thing together. Now, I don't need a lot of pressure, just enough to hold it at a perfect 90-degree angle. And with a damp rag, I'll clean the excess glue off the surfaces. Set that aside to dry, and I'll work on the other one. I want the 1.5 inch wide rail to be centered in the 3.5 inch wide leg. So doing the math, that leaves me 1 inch from each end. I've marked this one already, and it's easy to do with my adjustable square. I just set the distance, come in and hold it, and mark it from either side. This is another situation where what we're gluing to is mostly end grain. So I'll get a better joint if I size it first. And sizing just means I put a little glue on, let it soak in, and then come back and do the final gluing later on. I'll let that sit for about 5 minutes.
Senior editor Robert Lang completes the construction, then adds finish in part 2 of the CD-DVD rack. Look for it at popularwoodworking.com videos.
I had to drop